Just for reference, this this seminar will be recorded, and I believe we're going to try to post it later this afternoon to our website, so it'll be available for those folks who couldn't make this time period today. So thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Michael Watrous. I am the Agency Relations Manager for Food Bank of Central New York, and today we're here to discuss very briefly and in a quick overview some of the changes to the HPNAP grant for the 2021-2022 period. That's the current period that we're in right now. So some of you have been with us for quite a while and have seen some changes over the years. So we just wanted to update you on some of these process changes and give you some new tools and options for managing your operation support grant. So welcome. Just a couple of quick housekeeping issues. If you do have questions today, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, right along at the bottom margin of the screen. You'll see an icon for participants and Q&A and chat box. Please use the Q&A box. That way we can track the questions and make sure we get to all of them today. I will do questions kind of at the end, so if we don't cover anything throughout the initial presentation, we will definitely cover them at the end if you put them in the chat box. Also, today our resources are limited to the Operation Support Grant. If you have a question that's very specific to your program, I encourage you to reach out to me here at the Food Bank at extension 268, or probably easiest by through email. Please reach out to me and ask a question if it's very specific, and I will get back to you about that. So thanks for joining us. Also, I just wanted to mention really quickly, if anyone has been impacted, if any programs or communities that anyone is in has been impacted by flooding, please reach out to us. We have emergency resources available to assist. So again, reach out to me directly here at the Food Bank at extension 268 or via email, and we'll see what we can help with. So welcome and thank you. All right, so I just wanted to check off my list here and make sure I cover everything. A lot going on lately. So a brief history of HPNAP. For those of you who are new, or maybe even for some of you folks who are not familiar, HPNAP actually stands for Hunger Prevention and Nutrition Assistance Program. The HPNAP program is actually funded and run by the New York State Department of Health. The intention for HPNAP is that it is to help assist emergency food programs to provide nutritious foods to low-income people here in our state of New York. We're very fortunate here at Food Bank because almost all the other states, nobody else has a HPNAP program. So we're very fortunate here in New York State. As part of that, as some of you may know from filling out the application earlier this year, as part of that, there is a small portion of funding that is set aside each year for what's called Operation Support. Now, the Operation Support is a small portion of the funding, and it's intended to cover things like utilities, staffing, other small portions of your expenses to help supplement your annual budgets, but small portions of those expenses to help you continue doing the great work that you folks are doing out there. Just for reference, there are approximately, as of this morning, 257 eligible HPNAP programs here at Food Bank of Central New York. That means that there are 257 programs that are eligible to apply this year for funding through this program. In comparison, we have a total of about 390 partner agencies right now. So it's a really large chunk of our partner agencies are eligible for HPNAP program funding. So I just wanted to I hope everybody has received or has started to receive their operation support checks. They were mailed last week. There was a slight delay in them, but all of the checks were sent out by Friday of last week. It does take a couple of days for us to mail them out. There is that many. So I wanted to start by going to Food Bank's website and showing you where you can access some of the information for your grant. So bear with me for just a moment here. We'll go to the website. Okay, so on the screen in front of you now, you should start seeing any moment when it catches up here. Oh, there we are. I'm sorry. I hope everybody can see the screen. You should be seeing the food bank's main website. So under our partner agencies tab, this year we're devoting an entire web page to HPNAP information. So if you click on that, you'll see some basic HPNAP information. And as after today, we will begin updating some of these links. So we'll take down the information about today's meeting. Hopefully we'll be able to post this recording, and then afterwards, an additional link to the submission portal that you all use to submit your 21-22 HPNAP application. And that'll all be right here on this page. Down at the bottom, there's the general terms and conditions. This is the same agreement and general terms and conditions that you received in the mail, or in email, or for some folks in the mail, starting back in June. So that's where you can find the general terms and conditions. As part of the general terms and conditions, we have included two new infographics this year. The first one is the universal required grant documentation. This is actually required by the funder, the New York State Department of Health. So any of the documentation that's required as part of this is part of their request to us to ensure that the funds are spent in the manner in which they were intended. So as you look down through here, we've tried to simplify this a little bit for you to show you what is required for each of the categories of awards. So for example, if you have a space award, we will need to have on file a copy of your current lease, which should have been submitted with your application for funding. And then we will need copies of your canceled checks or bank statements to verify the payments. Pretty straightforward. And if you go down through here, we've listed each of the categories, including the vendor, the capital equipment. If you're purchasing equipment with your award this year, you're going to need a copy of your vendor invoice, so your receipt essentially, and a copy of your canceled check, bank statement, or credit card statement verifying payment. With the local produce this year, the same as in previous years, we'll need a receipt from the farmer or producer. And again, copies of any canceled checks or bank statement, credit card statements verifying the purchase. If you paid in cash, please have this noted on the receipt. So I know a number of folks pay their local farmers with cash. It's fantastic. Just make sure you have them write on the receipt that it was paid in cash. So we're not looking for a canceled check or something. Okay. So this is an infographic. Please review it and take a look at it as far as the pieces that are applicable to you. Also in the grant agreement this year, there is another infographic that covers eligible expenses. These are eligible expenses for any of the operation support funds again. So this will just tell you what is actually covered as an eligible expense, say for example, for utilities or staffing. For example, with staffing, if you are using, if you have an OS, operation support award for staffing, only direct service worker wages may be funded. So that would be like your pantry personnel or your soup kitchen personnel. It does not cover any administrative personnel. Okay. So that's a tool that we have in there. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And so don't hesitate to reach out. Okay. Now, many of you folks, again, have applied for your grant awards this year um, through the online portal, and we will be using the same online portal to offer online documentation as well. So when you log into the submission portal, so many of you have called with questions about this, as far as how do we use this now that we've got this. We will also be posting a link on the grants webpage for this as well. I'm already logged in because giant secret here, not a giant secret here, but I'm logged in already because I was terrified of forgetting my password this morning, because that's exactly what would have happened. So I'm logged in, and when you logged in, you should see this. Any of you folks who have received an Operations Support Award will see the same thing. And at the bottom tab here, you'll see where it says OSE documentation. That means that the status of your award needs documentation. So when you click into there, it's going to come up with some other information. Okay, so you're going to actually be able to see a lot of the information that you've already put in over time. You should also be able to see your original application. And if you scroll up here at the top, it's going to say your operation support documents. And you're going to just click the open button here to submit your documentation. And I've actually already submitted ones for samples, so I wanted to show you what that looks like. Let's start with, we'll do a second one. We'll start from scratch. When you go in to do your operation support documents, what you're going to do is select the type of award that you are documenting. So if you're doing your local produce award, for example, you'll want to add in, it'll ask you for the vendor name. So it could be Smith's Farm, right? Whoever it is, their address, 123 Main Street, anywhere, New York. Your date of purchase, and this should all match your receipt as well. So your date of purchase could be, let's say it was yesterday. And I'm going to say I spent $50 on corn. Corn is actually really good this year. And then I'm going to upload a copy of my receipt here into this field. If I select this file, it'll probably tell me for a lot of different files, obviously, on my computer. And I'm going to do the same thing for a copy of your check or statement or proof of payment. At the bottom, there's a quick question. How many pounds was purchased as part of this purchase? So we might say 100 pounds. Okay. Do you have additional produce grant claims? So this is where you can add in additional receipts. So you can actually add in each receipt. Oops. Should be able to anyway. So once you get everything added in, you're going to hit, you can save your draft and come back and finish it later if you need to. So if you need to wait for a check to come in and scan it in, you can save your draft. And then what will happen is when you sign back in again, it'll still say action required, but when you open it up, it should be there. Yep, there it is. So if you're done and you've got everything uploaded, please mark as complete. Okay. So once it's completed, then we can see it on our side of things, and that's when we'll reach out to you and verify that. So once it's completed, what we're going to do on our side is take a look at the documentation that comes in as it's submitted. Now this might actually take a couple of days because right now there's just one of us who's able to work on this any amount of time. So this is the one I started earlier for the first documentation piece. And you can see I submitted everything. And then at the very bottom, you can see what's called an approval status. So if the food bank staff looks at the documents you've submitted and they're okay and ready to go, we're going to hit that approved, and it's done. If there is any questions or anything else, the status will be different. And we'll put something in the notes, like, for example, we can't read the scan of the receipt or something along those lines. Whatever the case might be, we'll put it in the notes, and we will not approve this. So that's how, one of the benefits of the system is that you can see what was submitted, you can see what was received and how it was received, and also any additional steps that are necessary. You can also go back in and take a look at some of these once you submit them. Okay. As you can see, our staff hasn't had a chance to review this yet, so there's no notes and there's no approval status. As soon as we do that, it'll be updated to say approved or not approved, additional actions necessary, whatever the case might be. And then you folks can see exactly what's going on with your grants, what's going on with your status, and all of that stuff. Now, a couple of requests from our side of things here at the food bank. A couple of quick requests. One is that if you are submitting documentation this year, please make sure your account number is on all the materials, every page. It's really important for us to be able to connect the account number with the documentation piece. So your 5-digit account number starts with a 2. It's very important for us to be able to connect that to the receipt, to the canceled check, to all that stuff, just because there are so many of you folks out there. When you're submitting documentation this year, please, if you're going to mail it in, and mail-in forms will be available on the website. If you're going to mail in your submission, again, please make sure everything is marked with your account number on it, but also please hold your submission until it's complete. It takes a lot of time for our food bank staff to match up a canceled check with a receipt, or when we get a canceled checks, or when we get a canceled check and then a few months later we get the bill, or vice versa. It's very hard for us to track here at the food bank. So when you have those two pieces that are necessary, the invoice or receipt, and then your proof of payment as well, please send that in together. That'll help us tremendously here on this side of things. Then another option another request rather, is that if you are going to document it on paper, you don't have to wait until the end of the year. All of the Operation Support Awards were forward funded this year, so they were issued at 100% of the award. So please don't wait until the end of the year, though, to do the documentation piece. As soon as you have it, please document it. That also will help us. We always plan for a little bit of a crunch time in May, but we really need to have the documentation in so that we can demonstrate that the funds were spent accordingly at the end of the year. But like I said, don't wait. If you wait, if you're all like me, if you wait, it's a good chance you're going to lose something. So if you submit it as you have it, that's perfect. You can submit partially, as I showed you online. You can save your draft and come back and finish it later. So for example, if you have a receipt, you can scan it in and come back later and upload the copy of the check or statement on it. If you are uploading any of that information, please use a black magic marker and mark out any specific identifying information, such as an account number or a bank routing number, that type of thing, just so that there's no question of security. We have top-notch security through our website here because the vendor provides us with great security service, but we never can be too careful. All right. So now I wanted to just answer some questions. I know we have quite a couple of questions here in the chat box and a couple here. So the first question is in the chat box. Are we submitting quarterly, starting with 7/1, or submit each bill as it's used? Please submit it each as it's completed. So if you have a light bill, you can submit it. You have a staff timesheet, stuff like that. Please go ahead and submit them as you have them. Next question, we pay at the end of the season. Do we enter our purchases weekly or when we finally pay? So that answer would be, you can do either. If you do it online, you can save it and then come back to it and complete it at the end of the season. Or you can just do it all at once. That's whatever's convenient for you folks. Are both sides of the canceled check needed as verification of payment? And the answer to that is yes. Many checks now are only franked on the reverse side. So often when a check comes through, and especially if it's a scanned copy or just a plain copy, it's hard to tell if the check was actually cashed. What if an employee is a salaried person and does not have timesheets? We take payroll register and cancel checks only. Yes. So the answer is yes. Payroll register is an option, and a canceled check always is an option as well. Are there any other questions? Can we submit all the timesheets and proof of payment as one document? The answer is the timesheets should be the one piece, and then the second box should be your proof of payment. That helps us separate it out here on this end so that when we're getting the paperwork ready for the state auditors, everything's kind of in one place. What if we need more options? We started with 4. I can talk to the vendor about expanding those to add more options. Ideally, if you have the ability to bundle your information together. So if you have a utility award and you can bundle a couple months of utility payments together and submit it as one, that would be fantastic. If we do run out, like I said, I can work with the vendor and see about getting some additional submission spots open. You may start submitting whenever. The checks have gone out, but you can submit any expenses incurred towards that award after July 1st, 2021. Vendor puts bushels in their receipt. Would that be okay to write in? Yes. So if you don't have an exact poundage, if you can try to guesstimate or estimate to the best of your abilities, that'll be fine. If you're salaried and don't do timesheets, we would still need a copy of the payroll register along with the canceled check. If employees are paid by direct deposit, do you require copies of the non-negotiable check along with the register? Yes, that's probably easiest. I should also note one of the questions that's come up quite frequently with the operation support is that many of the coordinators or volunteers may make a purchase for the program and be reimbursed as part of the grant. The grant paperwork needs to demonstrate that the agency, the not-for-profit agency, paid for the actual item. So for example, if I were to purchase a shelving unit for the food pantry and it's being covered by a grant, and I make that purchase with my personal check, as part of the documentation process, we would need to show that the not-for-profit entity that sponsors the food pantry actually reimbursed you for that purchase. Last year was reimbursement for the produce, the check for the local produce. Yes, so the check for the local produce was sent last week as part of the operation support this year. Food Bank was able to forward fund the produce awards as well as all of the operation support. So that means we didn't have to wait for New York State to do any type of reimbursement or anything like that. So it is forward funded. So it is on the way to you folks as we speak. Is there a chart that might indicate the poundage for a case of some produce items? We do have a conversion chart floating around here somewhere. I'll see if we can't post that on our website. Local produce does include any New York State produce. It has to be demonstrably New York State grown. So for example, I know many of the supermarkets in this area will have signs up that'll say locally grown. However, on the receipt, it blends in with everything else. So it has to be New York State grown, and it has to be demonstrable that it is New York State grown. So our recommendation for that is to use a local farmer. The produce award is not eligible for spending at a grocery store such as Wegmans, Tops, Price Chopper, IGA, or any other chain grocery store because of the mix of products that come through. Great questions, folks. We have time for maybe one or two more, so if you have them, let me know. No questions in there? All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope to see everybody soon. We've begun our site visits, so we'll be out in your community hopefully in the near future. So thanks again for all that you're doing in the community. If you have any questions, as always, please reach out to us here at the Food Bank, and we will try to get back to you as quick as possible with any information that we might be able to share. So, oh, I see a couple more questions just popped in. Maybe my internet is slow. Will the grant pay for delivery charge of produce? The answer is no. It is strictly food only. If you forget your password to the portal, there is an automated reset. I do not have access to any of that information. The recording of this webinar will hopefully be available on our website later this afternoon. We need to do fun things with the file, make it a little bit smaller and get it posted on the website so later today. So hopefully later today, as soon as we can for sure. So, all right, well, thank you everyone, and I hope you have an enjoyable day. Please let us know if you need anything.